ComoShow.com, the Republican candidate for governor.
Have sexual relations
And
with
I
that
realized that this is something
Ms.
he
Lewinsky.
is
We're not going to
inherent.
be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Hey, Cleveland. Welcome to Backfire this morning with John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. And we've got a guest in the studio, Bob Burris, this morning. Welcome, everybody.
Hey.
It's been a long, hard week again. I tell you what, I feel like I've been wrestling Mexicans all week down there watching the news. Anyway, Franklin, you said you wanted to start it out this morning. You had something you wanted to open up with, so we're going to let you just
I did.
I mean, now you've been on vacation all week.
Yeah.
Been down in Jamaica down there chasing the dollies and all that stuff. Go ahead.
I came back feeling, rested and feeling good. But I was really excited yesterday, and I know John is going to be, he probably already is excited and probably giddy about it.
Okay,
really.
let's get to the point. Where are we going here?
I mean, I was just truly impressed yesterday that the National Rifle Association endorsed Congressman Scott DeJarlais for re-election.
Gave him the highest endorsement.
Gave his opponent a high rating, but chose to endorse Congressman DeJarlais. And I'm sure that's a real boost for his candidacy, and probably says a lot about both the candidate and the organization, maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, what it says is that conservatives in this district don't have to worry because no matter which one of them gets elected, they will get a consistent conservative vote in the House of Representatives, and that's what that says.
I've hardly heard Congressman DeJarlais described as consistent in the past.
He has the fourth most conservative voting record in Congress, and Jim Tracy has a wonderfully conservative record in the State House. Well, Franklin, those are moral, personal issues that you all seem to want to go to when it's one of our guys, and you seem to want to overlook. Little things like homosexual houses of prostitution that your second-ranking House ethics member ran out of his Georgetown townhouse that you all didn't seem bothered by.
You started this, Franklin.
I'm perfectly happy to have
Barney Franks. I will put what Scott DeJarlais did up against what Barney Franks did any minute.
We can talk about Massachusetts congressmen, or we can talk about our own congressman, and that's what we're talking about.
The people in the 4th District will make a decision as to how they want to shake this thing out. But the fact of the matter is the NRA makes decisions based on policy. Based on policy, both of these men have wonderfully good conservative voting records.
Okay, so in light of that, what would be the rationale for choosing to endorse Scott DeJarlais?
Well, that's actually probably the more interesting question. What it actually gets down to is what's the polling in the district doing? And I don't disagree with you. A lot of people took note of that and said, why would the NRA enter into this? Both of them have good records on gun rights. So that may speak to what polling is doing. And I, to be honest, don't know what the polling is doing, but other people have asked that very question.
Well, Franklin, I've got one for you.
Okay.
You started it.
All right.
I'll follow up. Is the border secure?
From what?
From invasion.
From invasion.
Well, apparently it's fairly secure as we keep intercepting people at the border.
Actually, the Border Patrol people right now are 50 miles back from the border. 50 miles back.
Well, we've got these 60,000 children that they've intercepted at the border.
You mean the MS-13 gang members that are coming across? I mean, technically,
they're
under 19.
Actually, these kids are fleeing people like the MS-13.
No, actually, they're not, frankly.
Yes, they are.
The Nogales Treatment Center was actually riddled with MS-13 gang graffiti. Just 2 weeks ago. They've interviewed multiple members of these children, as you call them, and they discussed the fact that they participated in torture and murder as members of MS-13.
Yes.
Now,
and they were fleeing those conditions. A lot of the countries they came from, The studies
think
show
that's a reason to let them in?
the studies show. Well, when you're talking about 12 and 13-year-old kids, yeah, I
All
think
right,
it might.
so Franklin,
John.
when will the
And in
flights
fact-
from China
and in
with
fact-
the 12 and 13-year-olds that are fleeing
And
the,
in fact, John, the
terror
studies
over
that
there
they've done
start?
has shown that these kids have something like a 1 in 12 chance of surviving.
I don't
to 25.
care, Franklin.
Well,
we
that's
can't
right, you
let
don't.
everybody
I
in.
appreciate what you
Are
said.
you going to let everybody in the world come here all at once because they're fleeing? Guess what? We're the greatest nation in the world. Everybody in the world wants to come here.
Well,
Franklin,
we
you have to have an orderly process.
Wait a minute. Is
That's
the border
exactly right,
secure?
John,
Was
and
my
I
question.
appreciate
We
you
don't
saying
have an
that.
orderly
I
process.
appreciate what you said, John. There is a law that applies to this, which, by the way, was passed by
For sex
what was his
trafficking.
name?
It
George
was,
W.
you're
Bush.
right, and it was intended to be.
No, and you
it
know what
was
else
intended
it says?
for sex
it
trafficking.
It says that when children arrive at the border, there are certain processes that have to be followed. Now, that was a good idea when your guy was supporting it. It's only a bad idea when
Franklin.
President Obama.
Well, we didn't have
Does it
100,000 a year coming
Yeah,
in there.
the numbers, and it was only
We didn't go
intended
into the
for
invitation.
sex trafficking.
You forget that this is the
sex
the same
trafficking,
president who was
Franklin.
pushing for
Sex
immigration
trafficking.
reform.
It was only intended for sex trafficking. And by the way,
Your
Franklin,
guy
we didn't
wanted
do-
immigration reform.
where are the kids going,
Your
Franklin?
guy wanted immigration
Where are the
reform.
kids going?
Well, right now they're going into custody.
Where?
I don't understand your question.
Well, here's
John.
the reason you don't understand. Nobody knows. They're flying them all over the country. They're not telling governors
That's-
of states
that's
that
because-
they fly
that's
them
because-
into
that's
where they're
because-
even dropping them off.
That's because, John, the law that, again, was passed by George W. Bush says that they have to be placed into the custody of departments
You're
of
missing my
Children's
point,
Services.
Franklin. They're not telling the governors that they're even bringing them into their states. They're secretly flying them all around the country. And guess what else we've got now? We now have the Border Patrol Union saying that TSA is allowing immigrants to board American Airlines flights without proper ID. All they're showing is that notice to appear, which is a printed computer piece of paper, and they've actually allowed them on planes. So, folks, when you get on a plane, feel comfortable that some people on that plane weren't even checked out as to who they were. The TSA just let them on the plane.
How can we let our guard down so much?
What do you mean let our guard down?
Well,
These are people who are caught. This is what
And
just
then
drives
given a
me nuts.
notice to
This is
appear
not-
and then turn
you,
loose.
You guys
Wait a
say
minute.
the border's not secure, and we're arguing over people we have in custody.
All right, let me ask you something, Frank. Why are they firing 50 caliber machine guns off from the Mexican side at our border, just to try to get attention so that they can let the drugs come across in another area when they've got our border control? There's all kinds of crazy crap going on down there right now, and they're bringing the cartels are sending their drugs over. They're sending. There's no telling what we've got coming across. But you're saying our border. Wait a minute, is our border secure?
So then the president brings a proposal to toughen up border security, and the Republicans are all voting against it.
Well, wait a minute.
Actually,
Why?
Franklin,
Because the
it
president's
has
involved.
nothing in it for border security. There was not a dime in that proposal for
More
border.
patrol agents wasn't for border security.
Franklin, that bill that he put forward had nothing in it
John,
for that.
just admit it. You don't really care
Let me
about
give
the
you.
issue.
Let me give you.
only
I
care
actually,
about smearing
Franklin,
the president.
60 million.
Just admit it.
Listen to me.
You
60
don't care.
million Chinese would like to come to America. Are you going to open the border and let
Well,
60
you know what,
million
John?
Chinese
if they
come?
can manage to swim here, I guess we'll talk
So, in
about
other
that.
words, that's a yes, folks. Anybody that can, by hook or crook, make it to our border can walk across. And by the way, Franklin, will you be opening your home to them?
I might.
Why don't we build some
Oh,
detention
Lord.
centers in Beverly
He's my
Hills
neighbor.
and Manhattan where all the good liberals live? Apparently, we want them in here, according to you all, but you don't want them in your neighborhood.
I don't think anybody has any problem trying to help some of these kids. But the problem we have, Franklin, is sending an open invitation,
We haven't
a
sent
kumbaya invitation, come on over. And in the meantime, they're coming over. We've got drugs coming in. We've got the cartel.
Ask the CDC about the health problems that are exploding at the border, the communicable diseases. Guess what, Franklin? 100 years ago, when we had a pretty big surge of immigration, we tracked every one of them. We tracked where they went in the country. We tracked what diseases they brought with them. We tracked everything. We're not tracking anything about these people. We're actually
years ago.
Yes.
We tracked all.
We kept all the statistics on who came.
Out of your mind?
No, I'm not, Franklin. If you want to look into that, feel
There
free
are
to.
whole, there
Can
are
I-
whole
Franklin.
towns throughout this country that were nothing but immigrants for 40 years.
You're missing the point. We kept up with it. We kept up with their illegitimacy rates. We kept up with their education levels. We're not keeping up with anything.
You would be screaming at your party to work with the president to solve the problem.
There's
Instead,
he doesn't want
you
to
don't
solve
This is not a party issue right now.
All right, let me ask.
It's America.
Well,
we're being invaded right now.
Let me ask you a question. Franklin, let me ask you a question.
It's not a party
Let's
issue.
say we work with the president and we put the point of, I guess, what you're talking about is we need a system in place for managing the immigration, correct?
That's part of it.
Okay. If you don't close the door, how do you make any system work?
And so when the president attempts
Close
to
the door
control the
first.
border more,
No.
you
No,
vote
Franklin.
against it.
Why won't he
He's
even
not
go visit
attempting
the
to
border?
control anything.
Why will he not even visit the
Rick
border?
Perry asked for the.
I'm sorry, but there is simply no credibility on the Republican side. Everything the president tries to do on it, you
Franklin,
oppose. Everything.
you all. First off, the
all
president.
you want to do is to say it's the president's fault.
First off,
and then
he's
say
lied.
he ought to do something.
Let's discuss
and
it,
when
Franklin.
he does, you oppose
Let's
it.
discuss it. First thing they did is they released statistics and claimed they were sending back more people than anybody before them. Then we find out that for the first time in history, they were counting the people simply who walked up to the border and were told to go back. They were counting that number. Bush, Clinton, nobody before this guy had ever counted those numbers. When you pulled those numbers out, he was actually deporting much fewer people. So the man is a patent liar.
Do you want to solve the
Are you
problem?
going to argue that
or
point?
Do you want to feel
Are you
good
going to
about
argue that
yourself?
point? He did it, didn't he? He included numbers that had never been
Again,
counted
no, I
before
wanna stop
to make a
this.
political
This
point.
would again
Franklin, I
be
want
what
to
I'm
stop
saying, though.
I want to stop the invasion. Stop the invasion.
Again, he's talking about the numbers here, but what's he talking about? He's talking about people who were stopped at the border.
Rick
now,
Perry
is that the
asked for
problem?
National Guard and he refused. Why not? Democrat lawmakers have asked for
Obviously,
National
Rick
Guard.
Perry doesn't need the federal government to bring the
So
National Guard.
now you're
in.
going to attack Rick
Isn't
Perry
that the
because
way
he's
it
going to
is?
go ahead and do. Look, Democrats. The president was able to go to a fundraiser and shoot pool while Democrat members of Congress were demanding that he come to the border. This is not a Republican issue. This is
It's
this
not.
president.
It's not a Republican
This is
issue
a total sham.
It is. No, it's
were
not.
were the Democrats
It's a
liars
sham.
too, Franklin? Were the Democrats from the border states liars as
This
well?
is a total sham.
Franklin, what about the Democrats
This
who
is a
demanded
total sham.
this?
What caused the sham, Franklin?
I don't know, unrestrained drug trafficking and warlords in small, underdeveloped countries. That's why they're leaving.
Franklin, are we
Oh, and what
responsible
else?
for
And
the
what do
whole
we do?
world?
What do we
Are
do?
we
When
responsible for the
when
whole
we have
world?
programs that the whole government, Democrats and Republicans, supported for 50 years to try to raise the standards in those countries so it wouldn't be as appealing for them to leave and come here. What do you guys do?
Congratulations,
you shoot down
folks.
those programs
Now,
too.
not only do you have to provide welfare for American citizens, we're going to provide it
It's
for the
not
world.
welfare,
You know,
it's
this is
common
part of the
sense.
president's hope to equalize everything. We'll all be miserable. We'll all be equally
Nobody
miserable.
could possibly believe what the Republicans say.
Okay, I'm going to change the
Well,
subject.
actually,
real
Franklin,
quick.
the
Every
polling,
program
the polling
Republicans
indicate
supported for 30
actually,
years,
Franklin,
they opposed
the
when this
polling,
president
the
does it.
polling indicates the president is on the losing side of this. Even among Hispanics, they don't like his approach. He's losing the polls.
I want to change the subject just real quick. Franklin, what I want to do next is try to take up a collection. I want to do it open mic on the air and send your checks to support our Marine in Mexico. And what we want to do is hire you to go down there and try to see if you can get him out of jail. And we're going to take up a collection. Is that all right?
I'll be happy to go on the trip.
And you said you didn't know earlier if you could do it because you weren't licensed in Mexico. I don't think that would matter. But if it does, we'll swap them 6 Mexicans back for you. Is that all right?
Oh, well, that's nice of you. I appreciate it.
Well, the nice thing would be for, I don't know, maybe the president or the secretary of state to demand that the Mexican government actually return our Marine, which hasn't happened yet, even though
That's amazing
statute
to me.
requires the president to do that.
Why do you think that's not happened?
Well, you don't know what the president has done.
There's been no
with the
request.
president.
We do
No.
know there's been no request.
You don't know what diplomatic
Kerry didn't even bring it
inquiries have
up a
been
month
made.
ago when he met with the Mexican foreign minister in Mexico. Didn't even mention the Marine's name to him. And they admitted that, Franklin.
Why don't you think that he'd even
Because he's one of those
mention
nasty old armed services people, and this administration doesn't really
Nasty
care about
old
those
armed
people.
services people.
They don't like the military, Franklin. They're destroying our military.
John Kerry, who has 2 silver stars for his service,
who threw his
is
medals.
anti-military.
John Kerry, who threw his medals across a fence, then lied about it when they were hanging on his wall. John Kerry, whose own members of his boat
Kerry
crew
earned
said,
the right to do
Franklin,
any
he
darn thing
shot a
wanted
man
with
behind a
himself.
little village and then went back 3 days
And you know
later with
what?
a video
He also
camera
earned
and
the right-
shot documentation of it so he could brag about it later.
He earned the right for all those draft-dodging Republicans
ask
who
you a
got
question,
10,000
Franklin.
Americans killed to shut
What
the hell
about
up.
his testimony when he said if we pulled out of Vietnam, only 4,000 to 5,000 people would die? 3 million people were
John
slaughtered.
Kerry put his body
John
in line
Kerry
in
was
hazard,
nothing but a
unlike
hack
all those
who went over there.
lily-livered draft dodgers who now run the Republican
Folks, think
Party.
about it for a minute. This man,
Why don't
after
you-
killing
why
a
don't you go
Vietnamese
get
soldier,
Dick Cheney and his 5 draft
went-
deferments
Franklin?
and tell me some more about how to run the
why
military.
don't you talk about a man who goes back with a camera
Of
3
all
days
the- of
later
all the
and
gall.
reenacts shooting someone
Shameful.
so he can brag about it and show it at a convention 30 years later?
Totally shameful.
Franklin, he
You
reenacted
should
shooting
be
someone.
embarrassed to
Franklin,
even be
he
associated in
reenacted
the
shooting
same
someone.
party
He
with those people.
reenacted shooting someone. Are you proud of that?
I'm proud of the service John
That
Kerry
he
gave
went
this
back and
country.
reenacted
Are you proud
killing
of
someone.
Dick Cheney's service?
Well, first off, we weren't talking about Dick Cheney because he's not in office anymore, Franklin.
Oh,
Your
but y'all
guy
didn't
is.
care then.
Your guy is
Then
in
he
office.
knew all about how to run the military. He got 10,000 Americans killed. And you guys didn't so much as raise a
John
finger
Kerry helped
and say,
get
wait a minute, maybe this is a bad idea.
3 million Cambodians died because of John Kerry. I'll put 10,000 soldiers.
Oh, now you're
up
worried
to
about the
3
people in other countries.
Well, yeah.
wait, we can't
I'm
be
worried about his
them,
judgment.
John.
I'm worried about his judgment, Franklin.
Get real.
He was off by I don't know, 2,995,000.
Nobody believes a darn thing your party says. And if you talk about
Wait a
the
minute,
president's
wait a minute, wait a minute,
popularity,
wait a minute,
have
wait a
you
minute.
seen your party?
Actually,
It's about
Franklin,
Hey,
if you want
90%.
to talk about polls, there's a new poll out. You want to look at the president's poll numbers? I've got them here.
The president's not going to get reelected, John.
Well, actually, the generic
I know,
poll.
I know you don't believe that because you think he's going to declare
He's going to do the
martial
worst
law.
job he can because he knows he's
Well,
not.
actually, Franklin, the
Now
generic polling shows Republicans leading at the ballot box as well. The president's approval rating has hit an all-time low. 57% disapprove of the
What's
job
the
he's doing.
Republicans in Congress rating, John?
I don't know, Franklin, but
Try
the
about
generic
9%.
the generic Republican is a +2, which he's almost never a +2. We weren't a +2 in 2010 when we beat you all down like a dog.
All right. Well, y'all said you were going to beat us down like a dog in 2012.
I want to ask this question. What is Homeland Security supposed to be doing? What's their budget for?
What is their budget
Well,
for?
apparently
Yeah.
they can't keep the U.S. flag from being taken down over the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, what's going on with Homeland Security? I mean, our border, is it secure? You say you think our border is secure?
What I think is that the major points of entry where terrorists have come into the border have been vastly improved than they were 20 years ago. Now, are there places that it ought to be improved?
You mean
course there
3,000 miles across the
course there
Texas-Mexico border?
But instead of having serious discussions about it, we get
Actually,
conversations
Franklin, we've
like
passed
this.
legislation
Why do
about
we talk about
and
it?
you
Why
all
don't we
never
just
did
do
it.
something about it?
Because you guys
Why don't
always
we
want to
get the
hijack the issue.
why don't we do
and
an
use it to-
executive
and
order to
use it
secure the border?
And use it to cut the budget for school
Why don't
lunches.
you just do the bill that was passed? They were supposed to build the fence, and only 700 miles of it's been built.
Why don't we do
Why
an
ain't he-
executive
why ain't he
order to
pushing for
secure
that?
the border?
That's a law in the books, Franklin.
The president has doubled the number of border security agents during his time in office from the previous occupant.
Can I say something? Rick Perry could probably tell him how to secure the border a little better. If he could talk to it.
If he could remember what 3 things were on his list that he needed to.
Well, let
Oh,
me give,
wait, I
let me give
remember
you an
that.
area where they were able to increase security. I'll give the president some credit. He has shown the ability to do that a little bit. You know the small town in California that stopped the buses from dropping the illegal aliens off?
Yeah.
Well, the next week, riot-armed federal agents showed up in that town. They erected concrete barricades in the town and erected a 35-foot-tall watchtower, a concentration camp-style watchtower in a U.S. city to control, guess what, folks? U.S. citizens. So you're right, Franklin. This president has shown the ability. The problem is he can't seem to figure out who he should be controlling.
Why do you think we have so many problems, so much controversy right now? What about Benghazi and?
That's another great one.
I mean, we have.
You know what we found out now?
Another.
Now we found out that the very group that attacked the compound moved in next door to the compound a year before the attack. Our people made repeated requests for increased security. Actually, we know detail. They asked for types of machine guns, and they were told, no, it won't look good. It'll be a bad image.
I will go back to the point that I've made in here before. Mm-hmm. Our elected United States Senator, who's been on the committee studying this, has said he's satisfied that he knows what happened in Benghazi and has given it a serious consideration about how we move forward with security at our consulates and embassies, which is something we ought to talk about. And if he doesn't go down the path of this nonsense, I don't know why anybody else would.
Franklin?
Oh, he's a Republican, right,
What do you think about a request for a machine gun being turned down because it wouldn't look good?
I think he was a Republican, right, John?
What about? Look, Franklin.
You probably voted for him.
Here's the point that you
did
miss.
vote for Senator
Here's
Corker,
the point that you miss. Republicans are the ones that forced Richard Nixon out of office. When our guys make a mistake, we actually are able to disagree with them. This guy could be caught videotaped axe murdering a little old lady on the front lawn of the White House, and you all would go, well, you know what? She had cancer, so he really actually was doing her a favor.
Okay, John. that was a clever image, though. I'll give you that one.
But Homeland Security, are we wasting money with them?
No, I don't think we're wasting money with it.
We've got the AESA, I guess.
What else?
What else?
NSA?
NSA.
No, look, this is a serious issue, and we ought to talk about that seriously. All right. Protecting us from terrorist attacks and so forth, that ought to be one of our first priorities, there's no doubt. To everybody's credit, and this is not a Democrat or Republican issue, we've largely been successful at that. Don't you think if Al-Qaeda and these other groups could have launched some sort of major terrorist attack in the United States since 9/11, they would have done it? I think they would have. And I feel certain that we have intercepted a lot of these things. Whether that was George Bush as president or Barack Obama as that. And I'm glad for that. Does that mean we can't do a better job? Of course not. Does that mean we shouldn't talk about ways to do a better job? Of course we should. But we ought to have that serious conversation in that context. And when it's not, and it doesn't, and it's not a question about intercepting kids at the border. It's a question about.
I think there's a lot of wasted money with Homeland Security, and that the money could be used more wisely. And I think it should be looking at securing our border. That should be their job.
Franklin, the statistics are 96% of these kids have been placed in the country.
They all have to be placed in the country
Actually,
under the law.
Franklin.
No, the law says they have to be placed with a Department of Children's Services.
The Republicans and Democrats actually proposed a bill 2 weeks ago that would have adjusted that 2007 bill you're talking about, which quite honestly was only supposed to pertain to people fleeing from sex trafficking. But the Republicans and Democrats, a bipartisan bill was put forward. Harry Reid, the president's hatchet man in the Senate, refused to allow that bill to come to a vote. It was a Democrat co-sponsor.
Is it passed the House yet?
Yes, actually, Franklin.
Is it passed
the House? Said we will debate it, but Harry
has it passed
Franklin,
the House?
There's
Don't
no
tell
reason
me about what the Senate hasn't done if the House hadn't done it either.
Franklin, the Senate said we won't bring it for a vote.
So
you're right. The House didn't waste their time on it.
That's as good an example as you can
Harry Reid said it.
That's as good an example
Franklin,
as you
Harry
can get with,
Reid
John,
said it.
Of people playing politics with this issue. And if you want to blame Democrats for that, fine.
No, Franklin,
that's okay.
you didn't. Now,
that's
see,
okay.
you're not going to play that card with me. I told you it's a bipartisan bill. It was a bipartisan bill. It was sponsored in the House by a Democrat. It was sponsored in the Senate by a Republican. The Harry Reid said he didn't care. He wouldn't bring it for a vote. Why waste their time on something Harry Reid's not going to bring up?
That would theoretically up the pressure on the Senate to do something.
It was sponsored.
This is nothing more than politics.
Franklin, it was a House bill sponsored by a Democrat, and Harry Reid said he wouldn't bring it up for discussion.
Pass it in the House.
Guess
and then
what,
throw
Franklin?
It to the Senate
they got more important things to do than pass. We've passed 39 jobs bills. 39 jobs bills in the House.
More important
39 jobs bills in the House,
49
Franklin.
votes to repeal Obamacare that couldn't come up in the Senate.
39 jobs bills, Franklin. Listen to me close.
What do you mean?
39 jobs bills were passed in the House that Harry Reid. Yes, they were. 39
tax
jobs
breaks
bills.
for fat cats got passed off as a jobs bill.
Harry Reid
Different
wouldn't
thing.
even allow him to be discussed. And you know what, Franklin? I don't. It doesn't matter to me, because what you're doing here is perfect, because we are going to take the Senate back. Then we will actually be able to pass some legislation. So by all means, keep saying what you're saying.
Well, that's okay, John. The last time that you had both houses of Congress, most of these laws you're ticked off about now were passed.
The last time
while
you
the
all had it,
president
you crammed Obamacare down our throat.
Okay. And there's about 9 or 10 million people who are in better health.
Oh, I
this
forgot
year
you
because of
also targeted conservatives through the IRS. You know, all kinds of wonderful things that Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid were able to bring us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we ever find those hard drives, we're going to get to the bottom of a lot of other good
conflicting
things.
testimony. Now they're saying the hard drive was scratched, and the IT guys inside the IRS now say they told the leadership that they were recoverable, and they recommended bringing in outside help, and somehow that just didn't happen, and now they've been shredded.
Well, I think we ought to take a break. We'll be right back.
This is a new song. This is the new introduction?
No. I don't think so. It's going to become quite apparent, I think.
All right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the vocal stylings of Greg Martin.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. AIG, Bank of America, Citigroup, First National, Lone Star. What do you want? 1, 2, 300 billion? Come on over. I'm your candy man. Who can fix the mortgage? General Motors, too. A bailout check for me and a bailout check for you, Obama man. Yes, Obama man can. Obama man can. Obama man can, 'cause he mixes it with hope and makes the world taste good. Who can give you help?
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. Whoop FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
You need money overnight? Check into cash. Your time is tight. .com. Bank account's too low? Check into cash. So where do you go? .com. Do it online in a record time. It's the easy way to get money next day. Do a quick click from home at checkintocash.com. Just stay in the house, check into cash, and grab your mouse.com. Get your money online, check into cash, right on time.com. You can be sure it's secure from our bank straight to yours. Do a quick click from home at checkintocash.com. No time to get away, check into cash. You gotta stay home.com. Hey, that's okay, check into cash. You can do it alone.com. Any old time, do it online. Just stay in the house and grab your mouse. Do a quick click from home. Get your money overnight at the right website. Do a quick click from home. Go to checkintocash.com.
Did you know that U.S. Money Shops cashes all checks, even the ones most check cashers reject? Tax refund checks, government checks, payroll checks, and many more. And when you cash a check with U.S. Money Shops, we'll give you 10% off your next purchase. At U.S. Money Shops, we have everything you need at a fraction of regular retail. So stop by one of our 11 locations or visit us online at usmoneyshops.com.
Buy or sell or apply today, the better way at U.S. Money Shops.
Some restrictions may apply. See store for details.
Wheeler Technologies has moved. Visit them at their new location at 490 Grove Avenue Southwest next to Bradley Rentals. Same great folks, same great service with a better location to serve you. Call Wheeler Technologies for voice, data, and security needs at 664-TECH. That's 664-8324. And remember, depend on Wheeler Technologies for the current time and temperature every day at 476-1111. Tennessee Alarm Contractor C1750.
My name is Vicki Lee. 16 years ago, my son was murdered by a stranger on meth while standing in his own driveway. I am thankful for people like Sandra Donaghy, a person that does her job. She treats people with respect and dignity. She listens to hurting families. And I know, had it not been for Sandra Donaghy making sure this person was punished by law, this man would have walked. I know families that suffer because of justice not being done. Thank you, Sandra Donaghy, for all you do.
My name is Sandra Donaghy, and I approve this message.
From
Check into cash, they're coming to town. Mighty Clydesdales of world renown. Such a rare sight, all black and white. Big excitement all around.
Check Into Cash, your one-stop money shop, introduces the Cashdales, our beautiful Clydesdale horses now touring the United States, representing our company heritage, appearing in parades, events, and visiting Check Into Cash locations.
2,000 pounds marching around, every hoofbeat shaking the ground. Tall as the sky, 18 hands high, they're gentle giants, so don't be shy.
Check Into Cash, now celebrating 20 years, is proud to present the beautiful Clydesdale horses. Visit cashdales.com for the upcoming schedule and more information.
Check Into Cash, they're on their way. The mighty Clydesdales will make your day.
It's time once again for the 11th annual Foothills Country Fair, Friday and Saturday, July 25th and 26th. On Friday the 25th, it's live music night, sponsored by Check Into Cash, featuring Fro Daddy and his band Convertible, the party band, at 7 p.m. sharp, followed by Dagger Blue at 8 p.m., and the Collins Brothers Band finish up the night at 9 p.m. and Detour DJ on Sound and Lights. Hey, it's only $5, and the gates open at 4 p.m. on Friday afternoon. And on Saturday, the 26th, it's time once again for the Kansas City Barbecue Society Professional Barbecue Teams. Yes, they're back. Also, you can enjoy photos with the Cashdales and the Money Mules from noon to 3 on Saturday. Sample the barbecue and vote for the people's choice. See all the professional barbecuers, their big giant rigs and smokers, like the ones you see on TV. Hey, it's all day Saturday from 4 o'clock on, and it's free. There's no entry fee. We do ask that you please bring a canned food item to donate to the caring place. That's foothillscountryfair.webs.com. foothillscountryfair.webs.com with live music, barbecue, kids area, petting zoo, fair food, and more. Foothills Country Fair 2014. See you there. Tri-State Exhibition Center. Rock.
Ah, the sounds of summer. If you had a pool, from Matthews Pool and Spa Company, 902 Sahara Drive in Cleveland, Tennessee. Call them at 423-476-4521 and get the pool or spa of your dreams. Do it now, Cleveland. Locally owned and operated for over 25 years right here in Cleveland, Tennessee, with over 75 years of total experience in the installation of pools and spas. So check out Matthews Pool and Spa for your new pool, spa, or any accessories you may need for a pool or spa you already have. Check them out here in Cleveland on Sahara Drive, 476-4521. Look out, kids, I'm gonna jump. Woo!
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right, welcome back to Backfire. We've got John Stanberry, Franklin Chancey, and we've got Bob Burris, and now we've got Adam Lowe in the studio. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Early voting's going well, I understand.
It is going very well.
I keep hearing that the turnout's pretty spectacular for the early voting, even with the weather being as bad as it is, or being as bad as it's been. So anyway, I hope things are going well. We got a call already? Let's take a call real quick. Go ahead, caller, you're live.
Good morning, Steve, and everybody there. It's Adam. I met him one night on the one day there. This is Bullet. I have a comment. Now, when a president is sworn into office, the oath he takes, and he's supposed to go by the oath when he's put in office.
Well, that's been the general rule for, I don't know, 225, 30 years.
Well, if he's not, if he's not doing everything that is sworn in office by the oath, isn't that grounds for impeachment?
Well, the oath is to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States.
Well, wouldn't that include enforcing duly passed and signed into law laws like the Defense of Marriage Act?
Not always, no.
Oh, so he can disobey the law?
Well, if he got Eric Holder, he can.
Franklin, I know I'm making a specific point, but the president swears to uphold the laws of the United States of America.
But the facts are, and it's always been the case, this is not something unique to President Obama, is that the executive branch is given a vast amount of discretion, has been traditionally by the courts, interpreting these laws in terms of how they implement
in the Defense of Marriage in the Defense of Marriage Act situation. He wasn't interpreting. He said, "I'm not going to enforce it." Does he have the authority to just blanket say, "I don't like that law. I'm not going to enforce it"?
What he said, John, was that we were not going to defend it.
Well, by not defending it, in other words,
the same thing as enforcing
Franklin, if a group didn't enforce it, if a state didn't enforce it, he wasn't going to defend the enforcement, which is the same thing as allowing it to be broken. This is a problem with talking to a lawyer, Franklin.
We lost our caller there.
Well, I mean, his question is an excellent question. The Constitution and the oath that these guys take, a lot of that is based on people being decent and wanting to actually fulfill it. And what happens is when you get an office holder who decides not to uphold his oath, it's very difficult to do much about it because, for example, when we talk about impeachment, people go, "Oh, we'll never impeach him because it would create a constitutional crisis." And so, unfortunately, we're to the point now where we've got not just the president, we've got other people in office that actually bank on that difficulty. They go, "Well, no one will actually want to do this, so I'll push the envelope."
Anyway, Franklin, I wanted to ask you, is our border secure?
And as I said, in places it's very secure. In other places it's got holes in it.
Well, Franklin, how well does a pot work that's very solid in some places but has holes in the bottom of it in other places?
What I'm saying, John,
how
is
much
that
water will a pot like that carry?
Well, it will carry it all the way down to the level of the hole, John.
What if the hole's in the bottom? Like, I don't know, the Mexican border, the bottom.
The federal courts had some rulings about Obamacare subsidies this week. Anything there is going to happen? There's just going to be
it's
another.
Going to end up in the Supreme Court because you had conflicting rulings.
Well,
and
I bet he signs an executive order to.
Well, I've got
tell
those rulings.
Don't worry about whether.
When you read the rulings, if I were Franklin and I was an attorney, I would be ashamed by the Fourth Circuit Court ruling. When you read the D.C. court ruling, they talk about. They say we hate what this ruling's going to do. However, we are charged with enforcing the law as it's written, not as we would like it to be.
The problem with that is that in order to reach that conclusion, they had to ignore a lot of established precedent about how the courts address these nuanced wordings in a bill.
There's no nuanced wording in it, Franklin. There's 4 words. There's 4 words. And those 4 words were actually specifically put in there by, guess what? The Democrat majority. And they put it in there because they thought those 4 words would coerce all the states to set up an exchange. When it didn't, this is the result of passing a bill and to pass it and then find out what was in it, according to Nancy Pelosi. Your people, the Democrats, screwed up. The IRS bailed them out illegally, and now the circuit court in Washington basically said, look, you want to fix this, you need to go back into the legislation.
I predict, and you'll recall that I got it right on the first trip to the Supreme Court. I predict the mandate will be upheld.
Frank, what do the words established by the state mean?
John,
what do the words established by the state?
Gave you
what
my
you said was you'll win.
What
you said was I think we'll win. I think the Supreme Court will give us a win. I'm asking you from a legal standpoint, if you're looking at a contract and it says established by the state, those 4 words, what does that mean?
When you interpret a law like that, you're not doing it based upon 4 words taken out of the context of the whole bill.
Established by the state is not taken out of context. It says established by the states. If you don't establish one by the states, it doesn't apply.
The law also says that if the states don't establish their own exchange, the federal government can step in and do it.
No, it doesn't. The law does not say that. The law.
That's what the IRS says.
No, wait a minute. That's what they thought was going to happen.
The law did not. Actually,
that's what they thought was going to happen and force it to happen.
They put that established by.
The federal government set up its own exchange. That's what the website issue was about.
The law didn't allow that. The law did not say that at all.
does.
The Congress
It
Act,
does.
Franklin, this was
It does
passed.
say that.
Let me explain this to you, Franklin. This was passed in the House, one version. When Scott Brown got elected in Massachusetts, the Democrat House, under Nancy Pelosi's control, decided to go with the Senate version, which said established by the state. They did it on purpose. They did it because they thought that would put enough pressure on all the states to establish exchanges. Now, to their chagrin, the states didn't go along with it. When it didn't go along with it, you had 36. You had a conflict. Let me read to you what the
Okay, John, 36, but in
They
terms
thought
of
they
the
were gonna
number
put-
of people in the
they thought
country,
they were gonna
more
put
than half
pressure
of
on
them
them
got
because
the
of this.
exchanges.
I tell you what, folks, let me just read you the actual statement from the D.C. Court of Appeals ruling.
Are you going to read from the dissent, too?
I'm going to tell you what they said. We need we reached this conclusion, frankly, with reluctance. But high as those stakes are, the principle of legislative supremacy that guides us is higher still. Within constitutional limits, Congress is supreme in matters of policy. And the consequence of that supremacy is that our duty when interpreting a statute is to ascertain the meaning of the words of the statute duly contracted through the folks, I didn't bring my glasses, sorry, through the formal legislative process. This limited role serves democratic interest by ensuring that policy is made by elected, politically accountable representatives, not by appointed life tenured judges. That is a very reasonable statement. They said, we don't like what this is going to do.
If you agree with the outcome, it was.
Franklin, I'll read you the fourth, and what they said is, well, yeah, we know what it says, but this is what we think it means. I tell you what, Franklin, you can laugh all you want, but when this whole thing flips and you've got conservative majorities on the courts, I want to see the same laughter coming out of you.
You know what, John? As I've often said, elections have consequences. And one of the consequences is the elected executive gets to make the judicial appointments.
You mean like when
That's
Harry
a
Reid
fact.
put the nuclear option in and stacked the court? So now what'll happen, folks, is this D.C. court. This was the 3-member panel that did it. There's now, because Harry Reid changed the Senate rules, they were able to cram 3 more Democratic Obama appointees on the court. So the White House will now ask for a full court review, and the full court, stacked 7-4 against Republicans, will rule against this ruling, and they'll say, no, we think the IRS had the authority to do it.
Doesn't matter. It's going to the Supreme Court.
I am thrilled that they're going to do that, because that will give the issue at the polls in November back to Republicans. Because not only will the courts have overruled what the public massively doesn't like Obamacare, so now you're going to have the court, which Harry Reid changed the rules to stack in favor of Obama, will now do this ruling, and it will inflame everybody in America, and it will help us beat you all even worse.
You're not going to have that ruling by November, John.
All right, let me bring up another topic that goes along with Obamacare. Investigators from the Government Accountability Office have been able to register fake applicants with fictitious identifying documents for health plans and federal subsidies through Obamacare, according to a published report. The Washington Post reports that investigators were able to obtain subsidized health coverage for 11 of 12 fictitious applicants online and over the phone.
Somebody tried to scam a federal program? Say it's not so.
Well, I mean,
there's a news flash.
I've always wondered what all these people who got fake IDs in the 70s did when they got,
we
older.
kept them so we could get health insurance later on.
Well, they're not identified.
Once they changed the drinking age,
how can you have people sign up for this stuff and they can't be verified who they are? It's amazing to me.
Well, by the way, folks, the new information coming out is you're going to have around a 25% increase in your premiums this year.
A moment ago, I can't let it pass.
Increase.
You said you didn't have your glasses with you this morning, so are you admitting that you're just a little myopic?
Hey, when you went to Jamaica, did you have to have a passport, Franklin?
I did.
Why? Why didn't they just let you come on in?
Because they don't trust us.
Did you have a picture ID?
I had my passport.
Okay, with a picture and everything. Yeah. So you could vote if you needed to.
In Jamaica?
No, in America. You can vote in. I went and voted yesterday. I went and early voted yesterday, and by the way, I voted for you, Adam Lowe. All right, I went and voted yesterday, and I was real proud when I had to have an ID.
You were proud?
I was very proud that they asked
Of course,
for an ID.
of course,
they verified that I was a real American.
Of course,
before.
the fact that you knew the three people on the other side of the counter who were taking it didn't matter either, right?
Well, I mean, I was real happy that I had to provide a picture ID.
Because you were concerned that somebody else had voted for you in the past?
I felt good about it because I didn't think anybody around me was going to be able to vote that wasn't supposed to.
And you think that's been a problem here in Bradley County?
Actually, it has been a problem in America.
That might explain all those Republican victories over the last few years.
Well, it has been a problem in some surrounding counties.
Polk County, it's a regular thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Matter of fact, North Carolina just released a report. They've identified several thousand people that voted illegally.
And by the way, early voting is going really well. Should we lengthen it or shorten it or leave it alone?
I think the 2-week period that we've used is a good one.
I don't like early voting. Never have.
Yeah.
I think some point in the future. Now don't get me wrong. I know it's convenient for a lot of people, especially if you're elderly or you have trouble. And I'm not opposed to a way to try and facilitate that ease. But my problem is for just the vast majority of people. I think at some point in the future we're going to finish out early voting, and between early voting and election day, we're going to find out some horrible thing about a candidate, and he's already going to have been elected.
Certainly possible.
And on top of that, it's
the positives, in my judgment.
Well, I will tell you too.
Those.
As someone running for an office, it greatly increases your cost of running as well. Because used to be you could tailor all your ads to that one day, election day. Well, now you got to start advertising a week before early voting. You got to advertise all the way through early voting. Then you might, if you're tight on money, you quit advertising for a few days to save a few dollars, and then you got to kick it back in for election day. So it has greatly increased the cost and the stress level of running for office.
It increases the expense to the county too. The 2-week period's nice. I think we probably could get away with a 1-week early voting period and get similar results. I know why they do 2 weeks is if a family's on vacation that one particular week, but you do have to pay poll workers and all those kind of things during that time, and there is actually an expense to hosting early voting.
Why can't we get volunteer poll workers? There's a lot of people that would probably volunteer.
Most of these, they are volunteers.
By law,
they're all volunteers, but they still pay.
They pay a minimal. It's a minimal amount.
Why do we still pay them?
I don't know. You get paid.
The law
used to be
says you have to pay
used
them.
to be
Now we have to
$80
charge.
a day.
Now we have to actually charge Social Security and all those other things. Used to didn't have to, and so it's gotten even
once again,
more
folks,
expensive.
the wonders of the bureaucratic system.
I mean, why can't you just have a volunteer that volunteers their time without having to pay them?
Well, I don't know. When you get a Democrat governor who says that a person volunteering to take care of their handicapped child has to join a union, then there's some real problems.
And there's such an obvious link between poll workers and Bradley County.
Well, my point is, Franklin, everything with government is about increasing the size and scope of government. They can't leave anything alone. They can't leave anything simple.
Why don't we just abolish government?
Well, I would be for abolishing as much of it as we could. I'm glad you've come over to our side.
Actually, we could get rid of a lot of it.
You could just wallow around in Ayn Rand
paradise. You know what I could do, Franklin? I could be responsible for my own
I'll
life.
meet you in the middle and say, let's just reduce it.
Why don't we only, here's a better one for everybody. Why don't we just do what government's constitutionally required to do? It's constitutionally required to protect us and to interstate commerce, and that's about it.
What's gotten quiet in here, Franklin? What's wrong?
I like when they talk like that because it sort of brings the chickens home to roost.
I appreciate the Ayn Rand reference.
Well, I'm glad that you and Jeremiah Wright have something in common with the chickens coming home to roost.
Well, actually, that's
Senator,
really Malcolm X.
Senator
Coburn.
Oh, well, I'm glad I guess you're just as happy with Malcolm X as you were with Jeremiah Wright.
Is it Senator Coburn that goes through his deal every year
Tom
with the
Coburn.
Tom Coburn?
Right.
Goes through his waste and spending.
Now, you know what's interesting about that? It used to be Senator Proxmire, a Democrat, that did that, the Golden Fleece Awards. Mm-hmm. This used to be a bipartisan thing.
Anyway, he's got $30 billion he'd like to cut out real quick.
Yep.
And there's some things there. Maybe we ought to bring in a list. Franklin, could you get us a list of what needs to be cut out of government maybe and bring it in? We'll let John bring a list in of what he thinks needs to be cut out of government. And let's just compare the list.
What if Congress did that?
Well, actually, that's what Senator Coburn does. I mean, some people might think that I don't know, several $1 million study on why lesbians are fat is a good use of taxpayer dollars. Franklin, you think that's a good use of taxpayer dollars?
I have no idea.
Why lesbians are fat?
Well, here's something.
We pay taxpayers. Y'all paid millions of dollars to do a study on why lesbians are fat.
But I did notice yesterday, and we're talking about the same topic. We had the 45th anniversary of the moon landing this year. That was a huge expenditure of federal dollars, and a lot of people forget that there was a huge debate in the years following that about whether that was a wise investment.
Franklin,
for the country.
are you actually equating whether we should go to the moon with a study on why lesbians are fat?
What I am telling you is, though, that the very same folks who are criticizing those expenditures were the same people criticizing those expenditures.
They absolutely were not.
Yes,
Franklin,
they were, John.
Anybody with any common sense could look at that and go, NASA
huge
moon landing, lesbians are fat.
We can't afford that.
There's no equation there at all.
Not only could we afford it was a wonderful investment.
Do you think that we could secure the border with $200 billion that we could save in wasted spending?
200 what?
Billion dollars. That's what they're saying that they think is being wasted in government spending.
Possible. I don't know.
Well, Franklin, I'm glad you brought up Apollo 11. Did you know the president met with the surviving members of Apollo 11 in the Oval Office yesterday?
I did not know.
You know why you didn't know that? Because the press was barred from it. The press was barred from an Oval Office meeting with the surviving members of the Apollo 11 too. So the most transparent administration in the world doesn't even trust us to sit in on a photo op meeting with Apollo 11 survivors.
The president wanted to have a serious conversation with these folks instead of have a photo
Michael Collins and Buzz Aldrin. Michael Collins and Buzz Aldrin. I really don't think that there was any substantive issues discussed there.
I don't know if there were or not. But that's a good point, though, John.
Well, Major Garrett of CBS News,
everybody wants a photo op.
Major Garrett of CBS News, it was a photo op. They only allowed their photographers in there. The White House press pool has filed a formal complaint that, look, guys, you can't even let us come in and look at you sitting down making a little chat with Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins.
Hold on just a minute. I want to change the subject. Adam Lowe came by to see me this morning. He's got to go to work. He has a job, so he has to get out there and go to work. Anyway, I just wanted to say to everyone that Adam is a great guy. He worked for years as the executive director for the Boys and Girls Club for our education side of the Boys and Girls Club. And he's got a great family. I've got to know him through the Boys and Girls Club. I've been involved with the Boys and Girls Club for many years. And I know that he'll do a good job if he's elected to represent us in the state of Tennessee. As I mentioned earlier, I did vote for Adam, and I'd like to throw my support towards Adam. I hope that doesn't hurt you, Adam.
It doesn't hurt me at all. I think I'm getting a lot of nods in the studio. I don't know if they'll acknowledge that through the microphone, but I think, listen, thank you, Steve. Thank you for what you do here at WHOOP and for what you do for the Boys and Girls Clubs. And you're a rock star to those kids over there. And even though I don't work there and haven't for over a decade, I'm like you. I've still been involved, and I just appreciate what you've done over there with the Boys and Girls Clubs, and that's a valuable part of this community.
I appreciate what you've done also. Thanks. Anyway, I got that over with. I wanted to make sure I did that this morning. Anyway, early voting started. Be sure to go out and vote. Keep Adam Lowe in your minds and your thoughts.
Are we done?
Well, we can talk about we've got a few more minutes.
And frankly, I'm seriously going to ask this. Labor Department is running an ad campaign asking people to call Congress to ask for them to raise the minimum wage. Do you think taxpayer dollars in the form of government agencies should be used to lobby Congress?
No.
Okay. I appreciate that. They're running an ad campaign, and we've seen more of that out of this administration. Now, I'm not, other administrations have done it as well. But as I understand the Constitution, these agencies are actually...
Are they spending money, though? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's done on
social media.
Yeah, but it's done on their time, on our
Okay.
our computers.
But it's not. We're not saying they're buying ads on TV or
not
in the
yet,
newspaper
but they
or
have
anything.
done that before. Other departments have done that.
But as a general rule, I agree with you.
Are they not specifically barred from lobbying Congress?
I don't
thought
know
that-
the answer to that question.
As I remember it, they are
don't know.
actually barred from lobbying Congress.
I do not know that.
Another thing I just caught some information on: race to cut taxes fuels urge to merge. A couple of drug companies are starting to merge with foreign drug companies because they can save so
they're
much in their
merging
taxes.
because that's not a complete explanation. They're merging because they're then going to leave the United States and have their headquarters in London, or specifically Ireland, because Ireland has some of the lowest corporate tax rates in the world. So our tax policy.
At the same time, a number of American manufacturing companies have announced that they're moving jobs back to America right now, and that the business climate is now more favorable for doing that for them.
Well, the majority of them
Well,
are moving out.
we wouldn't be losing these if we weren't taxing
Jack
them.
Lew, the Treasury Secretary, and this will
In
give y'all,
Obamacare.
folks, this will give you a real difference in the way Republicans and Democrats look at things. Republicans look at this issue and say, we need to cut the corporate taxes. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of the big corporations. Franklin's right, the big corporations do okay because they have huge legal departments that are able to work the loopholes. The people that get hurt are the small U.S. corporations that can't afford the kind of legal and tax advice to work these things, and they're the ones that really get hit. But Republicans look at this and say, we need to cut the tax rates. We need to get rid of the red tape. Jack Lew, the president's Treasury Secretary, said we need to put punitive laws in place to punish companies that leave the country. That's just the wrong way to do it. They'll find a way around those punitive laws. We believe you make it to where they want to stay here. The Democrats believe you force them to stay here.
Anyway,
by the way, Beretta is moving from Maryland. They've announced they will move all of their manufacturing facilities from Maryland because of their new gun law they passed to the state of Tennessee.
Perfect. Where are they going to be?
They're right outside Nashville.
All right. Franklin, did you have a good vacation?
I had a great vacation.
You got down there and got all fired up, did you?
I got relaxed and mellow.
Why'd you want to come home?
Because the money ran out.
Oh, you mean there's something to be said for living in this country?
I had to pay for it.
Would you be interested in seriously going down there and see if we can get this Marine out of the Mexican
I'll
prison?
do anything I can to help. See, because I'm a patriot.
Well,
since you're a good Democrat, what you could do to help is, I don't know, maybe call the president and see if he might actually ask for him to be released.
That's right. I mean, I think you'd have some pull with Mr. Obama, and maybe he'd at least make a phone call to the Mexican president. Or actually, he has made a phone call to the Mexican president. He just refused to talk about it.
Didn't bring it up.
Yeah, I don't know why he wouldn't have brought that up, but anyway, this poor guy is still down there in their prison, and I don't know if we're ever going to get him out.
Claims that he's being tortured.
Well, I think our time's up, folks.
Everybody have a great week.
Hey, everybody have a good time. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again on Whoop FM at noon today and every Wednesday morning from 7:30 to 8:30. Now, back to more music on Whoop FM.
Whoop FM is a non-profit community radio station that is made possible by generous donations by individuals and the following sponsors.
Tired of standing in line to cash your paycheck? Go to usmoneycard.com. Company doesn't provide direct deposit? Visit usmoneycard.com, the smart and safe alternative to carrying cash. We'll provide direct deposit for your prepaid debit card, or you can deposit cash anytime. Your US Money Card is reloadable and can be used wherever MasterCard is accepted. You never have to worry about overdraft fees. Spend what you deposit. So log on, load up, and love your US Money Card, the safe and smart way to spend. Visit usmoneycard.com for complete details.
Former Deputy Governor Claude Ramsey talks about Dan Howell for state representative.
Dan Howell has the temperament and the background experience to be a good state representative. I've been a state representative. It takes a unique person, somebody with